Welcome back, YouTubers, to Tomahawk Fab Works. Last time we were doing some work on the rear fender to get the front part of the fender to curve down and catch road debris and keep it off the engine and transmission section of the bike. Now we're going to take that off and continue on with the welding and forming of that. So the next step we're going to do here is take the fender off and go on from there. Next, I want to weld this bracket on the fender a little bit better so it don't fall apart. Dang. That's a sunspot. Okay. So now, what I want to do is, these two ends, I want to splay these out and pull them underneath the fender. So these will kind of like disappear underneath the seat. I'm going to use a couple of long screws to pull them both, suck them in underneath the fender. So I'm going to come back here, drill a couple of holes, and then back screw it and use it to kind of jack them back up in there and see how that works out. Okay, we got the screws started. Let's see if this works. Side. Need a different bit. So as I do this, this goes left and right as well. So I got to watch that and make adjustments as I go. So I'll probably have to mount this back on the bike a couple of times, put the wheel back in, see how it's setting, all that kind of stuff. But this is, so I got it to splay out. Yeah, so now it's going to take some fine tuning now. See how this is going to run. And then once I get this straightened out, I'll be able to make more braces and weld them in place. So that's what I'm going to do next, is put it back on the bike. The wheel back on. Checking for clearance and all that kind of stuff. It looks pretty good. I had it up and the wheel's turning. But I still want to make some more adjustments. Sure like to get this to flex out a little bit more to match the curvature of the wheel. Something like this. You know, something like that. You know, it's hard to see right now, but yeah, like another ½ inch, that would be good. So what I'm going to try and do is, to get it to go like that, is take the fender off and mount it in reverse, maybe, and hopefully these mounting bolt holes, I need 4 of them to match up so I can hold it onto the bike frame and then pull on it from the back and try and flex form it into shape. So that's what I'm going to try next. So, one of the unforeseen complications that came up was that when I splayed out these two ends, one on this side, one on the other side, in order to hide this area of the inner fender, the geometry changed of the front fender here, and now the bottom of it's tilted back more towards the wheel, closer to the rubber, and it's missing the radius of the wheel now. So the only way I can see to correct this is to you see that bracket up in there, is to break this weld, pivot the fender towards the tire a little closer, and this is down on it, it's got weight on it and all that, and see if I can get this to pivot back a little bit, and I don't need it to do it much, and I think that's going to fix the problem. So I finally got the geometry of this bend right here the way I want it. So this part of the fender hugs the tire the way I want it. And now I'm starting to weld in some gussets so that this doesn't move now. So I'm going to put one on the other side, and that'll keep that from bending or changing or whatever. And that'll hold it in place so I can do the rest of the work that I got to do. So that's what I'm working on right now. Okay, so I found me some metal in my stash and had a radius even cut into it because it's an old cover from another pulley I used to have on the bike. So I got them cut. There's actually two in there. There's like a half and half kind of thing. And I got just them, they're barely held in place by a couple of tacks here on top. So I'm gonna see if I can get these stitched in here. It's awful thin stuff without burning it up. And I can take it out and stitch up the center, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so I got it back off. And this seam right here, I gotta get that welded up. And maybe I can start manipulating the sides of these down, curve them down a little bit, and start molding it kinda all together. So I'm finding out that this sheet steel I put on here is just too thin. It's not going to be strong enough. I can't weld it. It's just too thin. So I got to rip it off and start over. It ain't going to be that big of a deal. Just a learning curve, I guess, I got to go through. So that's what's going to happen. I'm going to tear that off and put it back on a bike and get something else and set the geometry back up and use something different. Use something thicker. At least the same gauge as the fenders at least. Okay. I got the gussets in and the fender back on so that one angle's being held firm, and I'm liking how that I know it's hard for you guys to see. But, okay, now the light's on. But I like how the radius is kind of matching the wheel now. We'll go on the other side and take a look. And I did some measurements. And the spacing is pretty much dead balls on from side to side. From like down here. From this point to the edge of the rubber, between here and here, about a ½ inch on each side. So that's straight. But anything that's even off a little bit, you can flex that a little bit and make that final. So all I gotta do now, I'm gonna reach up in here and weld up in here some more. And that'll stiffen it up a little bit. And then I'll scuff this up right here where this bend is, and a piece of sheet metal will come about yay wide on down and match up pretty much where this white line is right here. And I'll tack that and place down here, and then I can take it off and kind of mold those two other ends around the curvature of the fender here, and we can finalize kind of like that whole deal right there. Okay, I'm going to end this segment now. I got this looking the way I want. The curves following the way I want. The spacing's the way I want. And what I had to do, when I had those last pieces of metal welded in, they're just too thin. They weren't going to support it. So I had to cut it off, and I went with something more heavy gauge. And that's in there now. So next time, we're gonna start like coming off. It's hard to see, but I'll be coming off the trailer fender part down to the back fender or front inner fender part, and trying to like blend those two pieces together and making this more stable, you know, from side to side, working either way, so that it holds its shape and all that kind of stuff. That's where we're at right now. If you're watching, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And goodbye.